Good evening. Man, you guys ate a lot of tri-tip, dude. I think we cooked 36 of those things, man. So good job. And if you missed, man, you got to get here a little earlier next time, I guess. I don't know what to say to you. But anyway, hey, I'm so glad to see you tonight, man. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk a little bit about what God has done the last year, and hasn't God been faithful to us? Hasn't He been good to us? And so we're gonna talk a lot about that. We'll talk a little bit about what's coming up for the next 12 months or so, and we've received some questions along the way this week or in the last couple of weeks. We'll try to address those, and at the end, if we have questions that we haven't addressed, we'll be glad to take some of those. And so you're going to hear from me a little bit. You're going to hear from some of our staff as well. And the reason we let you hear from them is, number one, some of you don't know who they are. So number one, it's good for you to know who they are because they do a ton around here. One of the things about being in my role is that people see me a lot, but that doesn't mean I do any more than most of these guys do. In fact, I do less than some of them probably, realistically. And so I want you to know who they are and to see just, how much they love you and how much they work on your behalf on a regular and a consistent basis. And they strive to serve you in many ways. So anyway, we're going to pray, and then we'll get this thing moving. All right? Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your goodness and your mercy. Thank you that this is your church. You are the one building it. You are the one who ultimately we exist for. And so make sure that we never lose sight of that. Make sure that we never get distracted in ways where we go our own way. And if those moments happen, set a hook in our jaw and draw us back to you. Father, we just thank you for the last 12 months. We look forward to the next 12 as we continue to follow you together. And I don't know about everybody else, but I know for me, I'm incredibly thankful and glad to be walking and following you with all of these people. And so may we continue to honor you in all that we do. Lord, it's in the beautiful and the powerful name of Jesus we pray. Amen and amen. So we're going to do a couple of things. Mike, if you would go and bring up that first slide. So, let me get close to the mic. What is this? Anybody know? This is our mission statement. How many of you had no idea we had a mission statement? Cool. All right, so most of you at least had the idea we had one. This one is actually, do you know where this is? It's right by the cafe window on the wall, right? So I understand that a lot of times when we start seeing things consistently, we don't even really see them. But it's just good for us to be reminded every once in a while. And listen, mission statements are not perfect statements. They don't totally describe anything. They just try to give us a sense of what we as a people and what we as SCF and the church here at SCF, what we feel like God has called us to do. And so our mission statement is connecting people to Jesus through intentional relationships with one another. So number one, we want to connect people to Jesus. We want to see them grow in their faith. And the way that we believe that God does that is through other people. If you're here at all very often, you hear us talk consistently, constantly, probably to your frustration at some level about, all right, I still haven't talked about it enough. Right? We believe that community, man, is how God forms people. It's how He shapes us. And that community, if you were here this morning, you heard me talk pretty bluntly about this. That community is not just for a place for you to receive. It's not just a place for you to get things. I happen to believe that we live in a culture that I would describe as consumeristic. That from the beginning of our lives, we're marketed to. And it's really easy to do that with the church as well, to just market it and to think if we can establish the right brand and all of those kind of things. But a church is not a business in that way. Church is the people of God. And we have a business component, and all of those things are true, but ultimately, if that's all we are, if all we are is a brand apart from Jesus, we failed. And so, we believe it's important to connect people to each other because in that, like we talked about this morning, the difference between a godly community and any other type of community is just that the godly community is built around God. It's not that it always acts more godly. It's not that everybody in it is perfectly accomplished in their godliness. In fact, I would venture to say that none of us are in that place. It just means that we've all continued to come together centered around God, pursuing Jesus, trying to walk with Jesus together. And so That is our mission. And it's not a perfect description, but it's the one that we work with. And how do we accomplish that? Second part of this is something that we call the next steps. Mike, you want to go ahead and get that one? Thank you, sir. So, next steps. We talk a lot about this idea of being a disciple of Jesus, not just being a believer, right? What's the problem with being a believer? The Bible says even the demons believe, right? Belief is part of being a disciple. We have to believe for sure. But if it's just a belief, if it's just an intellectual assent to something, it's not what Jesus calls us to, right? That we're called to actually be those who follow Jesus. And so there are a couple of ways that we look at markers of those who are intentionally following Jesus. So the first one would obviously be deciding to follow Jesus, right? That the rest of them don't make any sense if we haven't decided in our hearts to follow Jesus. And so one of the things that we always try to talk about is this idea of how are you following Jesus? You consistently do it. And listen, none of us do this perfectly, right? I don't do it perfectly. There are a lot of times that I'm following myself and not following Jesus so much, right? We all have that default bent. But we always want this to be something that as a body, we understand this matters most. I had somebody come up and ask this morning, and it's a good question. I love when people ask honest questions. She said, why do we do communion every Sunday? It's a good question. Some of you might have thought that. We used to not do it every Sunday. Why do we do it now? And I said, well, I'll tell you why I think we do it. Number one, we're reading through what book right now? Acts. So when it describes the early church, it says that every time they gathered, they broke bread. And that's not just a meal they're talking about there. That very early there was this idea that, man, they were doing what Jesus said, as often as you do this in remembrance of me. So number one, I think it's biblically astute to do it that way, right? I think there's some consistency there. Number two, it means that every Sunday, no matter what else we do, we take a moment to remember that this is all about what Jesus has done. That every Sunday, I don't know about you, I need to be reminded that this is about Jesus. Because the tendency is to think it's about us. Do I like stuff? Is this my preference? Doesn't really matter. What matters is this is about Jesus. Amen? So we want to follow Jesus. Number two, join mission. What does that mean? Join the mission of God. What is the mission of God? To save and redeem all things, right? So when we talk about joining mission, we're talking about finding places to serve, right? And one of the things you'll know about us a little bit if you've been here very long is we're not asking you just to serve inside this building. I want you to serve in your community, right? If you're coaching your son's baseball team, guess what you're doing? You're serving God, right? If you're volunteering at a school, guess what you're doing? You're serving God. If you're taking cookies to your neighbor, right? You're serving God. And so serving doesn't mean that you have to come here to do it by any means. But we want you to find where God has called you to and to serve, to be part of the mission of God. Number three, live generously. Live generously. Why? I think God was generous with us, right? He was pretty generous. He's not like, let me see how little I can give to Jason. It feels like that occasionally. But like, he's been pretty generous with me, man. And so we talk about that idea a lot of living with open hands. I'm a huge believer with living with open hands. Not trying to hold on to stuff, because ultimately what you hold tightest to is what you trust, right? And so what are you holding tight to? Should be Jesus, right? And if I can trust him, I can deal with everything else, right? So we want to live generously. Number four, choose community. We've talked enough about that, right? You have to choose community. Community will probably not choose you. There are people in our culture that wait around for other people to approach and form relationship community with them. Can I just tell you, you're going in for probably a long wait. So choose community. Be proactive in it. Know that the community is going to be challenging and frustrating and also beautiful. It's going to be all of those things. That's exactly what it's meant to be. That choosing community is a way that we choose what God loves. Because what does God love? People. So when I choose community, I'm choosing what God loves, right? And then lastly, bring a friend. What do you think that means? Yeah, bring a friend. It doesn't mean bring a friend to church. It means bring a friend towards, and that might include bringing them to church. But it's certainly not limited to that. Bring them towards God's goodness. Bring them to know Jesus in the way that you do. Invite them to find what you found. And I'm just kind of a believer if we do all those things consistently. And listen, these are not checklist items. It's not like I go, oh, okay, follow Jesus, I'm done now. I lived generously one time. These are not so much steps as they are rhythms of how we're meant to live. Does that make sense? And so one of the things I want to kind of launch this with before we get into some other people talking a little bit today is this idea that in the Bible, it uses the terminology. Psalm 1 does this, Jeremiah 17, John 10 talks a little bit about it. This idea of rootedness, being rooted. And I want you to think about that. We talked a little bit about it today in the sermon. How many people in our culture are not rooted anywhere? Because when you get rooted, guess what? You have to deal with whatever comes your way there. It's much easier not to put roots down and to try to always move to hospitable climates. And that's the way the devil sells it. Hospitable climates. Well, don't you want to be in a hospitable climate? But guess what? There is no place that exists that it's always hospitable, that it's always perfect. And so we get to choose these lives where we're constantly chasing the right environment, but we never really grow any depth. Or we get to choose to put down roots in a place and with a people, knowing that there are going to be some storms there. And so, one of the things that we're thinking about, we call these the next steps and have for a long time, and I was part of coming up with that, and I loved it. But then I also started thinking next steps in some ways sounds like what? A checklist. What's my next thing? Am I done with it? Have I been generous enough yet? Have I chosen community enough? And then I started thinking, the Bible talks a lot about this idea of being rooted so that you flourish and that you plant seeds eventually. And so one of the things you're probably going to see us do over the next year or so is look at this language. These steps will not change. These things will not change. But the language might get adjusted just a little bit. Is that okay? Right? And we'll tell you before we do anything, right? Because I know some people, even language is hard to deal with a change. All right? But we also want to make sure that we are biblically astute about what we do. We want to use biblical language with as much as we can. And I think the biblical language of rootedness and flourishing makes a lot of sense. So that's just something to put on your horizon, your radar. It's not coming tomorrow, and we still have a lot of things to talk through. But I want you to know more than anything, the last 3 or 4 years, man, we've watched God consistently grow this church, right? And he's continuing to grow, and it's one of the things I love about reading through Acts. We understand that who adds to the church? The Lord does. We don't, right? And I'm a huge believer as we continue to follow him, he's going to continue to do that. So there are no huge changes coming because we feel like we're working in the right directions. We feel like we're focused on the right things. And so we're just going to continue to do the right things more and more consistently. And hopefully that's a blessing to you. Hopefully that's a way that you continue to grow and to mature, and we as a body do as well. So I've got a group activity because I know you love them. There's Dean. All right, Dean. So one of the things you might have noticed that we did in the lobby recently is we put up a board there, a gratefulness board. And really what that is designed to be is a place where every once in a while you stop by and you just write down something that God has done in your life recently. I grew up in a church where Sunday night was, you might know, testimony service, right? So every Sunday night when my mom would make us go, you had like people standing up and they were telling their testimony, right? What God had done. And I grew up in the South, and most of it was people lying and trying to outdo each other in their testimonies, to be honest with you, right? You never wanted to be first because then the second one was better than yours, right? And it was usually the same 4 or 5 people all the time. And as much as that's funny, I also always appreciated that there was a place that we got to hear what God was doing. That I love reading Acts and knowing that God was working then. But I also love that we can create a place where we can be reminded that God is also working now. That the book of Acts is not a finished product because God is still working in and amongst his people. And so I would encourage you every once in a while, stop by, read some of those. But even more than reading them, write something down. Because not only are you like testifying for what God has done in your life, but you're encouraging other people along the way. Every week I go and read a couple of those. And it reminds me, God is working, man. God is faithful. And so let me encourage you to do that. But in light of that, I'm going to ask if you would. We're going to take about 2 or 3 minutes here. And I want you to move from your seat if you can and find somebody that you don't know or maybe you haven't talked to in a while. And I want you just to tell them one thing God has done in your life in the last couple of months. Just one thing. It doesn't have to be big. It could be generic, right? It doesn't have to be life-changing. But I think it's important. Sorry, Judy. Real quick, I'll get to you, dear. No, it's all right. It's all right. I'll get to you. But I think it's important that we get in the practice of telling what God has done. Because the more I talk about what God has done, the more I see God doing things. I don't know about you. It makes me look for them. It's like when you get a blue car. You see blue cars everywhere, right? And you thought like there were no blue cars, but now they're everywhere. Well, it's not that there are more blue cars. It's just that you notice them because you're looking for them, right? And I'm convinced that it's not that God's not working. It's just that sometimes we're not really looking. And man, I want to be someone that sees him moving. And so that means I want to look. So about 2 or 3 minutes, if you would, get up, find somebody. Tell them just something God's done for you, and then we'll come back and we'll move forward with this. All right. I'm going to ask you to finish as you can. Yeah? Wallace, what happened to your UCLA boys, man?
About the same thing that happened to your Florida boys, baby.
That's fair. That's fair.
It was painful.
Yes, it was. So I want you to think about what just happened. 170, 175 people just shared stories about what God's done in their life. How much glory does God get there? All of it. They say about organizations that you can tell what you value by what you celebrate. So I think we should be a people who celebrate regularly what God is doing. Not just what he's done, but what he's doing. And so one of the things I would encourage you to do is to continue to build that kind of thing into your life. Whether it's in your small group, in your family, relationships, be someone who regularly talks to other people about what God is doing. And you'll be amazed at how much more you see him doing. Not because he increased his activity, but because we increased our awareness. And so for us this year as a church, that's a huge emphasis, is continuing to become more and more a church where we consistently talk about what God is doing. And we create opportunities for people to share what God is doing. And so you can help us out with that by writing on those pieces of paper every once in a while, because not only are we going to read those, but occasionally we're going to pull them and we're going to contact you. And we're going to say, hey, we'd love to hear your story in front of the church. We'd love the church to hear your story. Some of you are like, well, I'm definitely not filling one out now. You can do it anonymously, right? Even if you don't want to talk in front of the church, we still want to hear your story, right? But I always forget that because I don't mind talking in front of people that most people don't like this. But we want to hear your stories because, man, I'm convinced that we need more stories of what God is doing right now. It's not that they're not there. It's just that we don't take time to tell them sometimes. So let me encourage you to increase that in your life, and we're going to try to increase it as a church. I'm going to bring up our first person tonight, our first designated speaker, other than myself. You may or may not know this person. If you've been here very long at all, I'm sure you do. But John Klippenstein is our executive pastor, which means that John, I think John and I, to be honest with you, have a really good symbiotic working relationship in that he loves to do the things I hate, and I love to do the things he hates or doesn't want to do, right? So I think we work really well together. John handles all of the financials, the plant, the capital, this whole mall. He does all of that and works with our staff as well and has done it really, really well for a long time. SCF would not be in the situation it's in, health-wise, if it was not for John. He is a blessing to this body. And so whether you know him or not, you've been blessed by his work, and you've been blessed by him. And the reason you don't know him is because he does not want to be in front of people most of the time. So this is a struggle for him, right?
Oh, yeah, yes, he's right. This is not what I was born to do, but I find myself in these situations more and more. So I'm a little more comfortable than I was. I've been on staff for 16 years now, so I'm way more comfortable now than I was back in 2010 when I started staff. So Jason, kind of half-truth, it's not me that makes this place what it is. It's the staff. And I know we got a slide coming up here in a minute, but I get to, I don't have to, I get to come in and work here every day. And with these staff members from the last 16 years, there's some former staff members here in the building. And that's what really makes it worthwhile, is working with the people I get to work with every day. We're in a really great spot on our staff. Every staff person is in their zone, or whatever you want to call it. They're working in their strengths and their passion, and it makes my job very easy. I don't have to boss them around, manage them all that much. I just have to make sure that they once in a while a couple of them, yeah. So I get to work with this staff, and it's been great. And for whatever reason, we're a lot smaller staff than we were 16 years ago, so I don't know if that's on me or what, but we have a great staff. So you guys have a great staff, and they come in every day and try to encourage you, be a part of your lives, however that works. And they think about you way more than they think about themselves. So anyway, Mike, you want to put that first slide up? I think I get it in the back too. There it is. Is that it? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go through staff, and I'm going to do some other things. So really quickly on staff, some more looking backwards, we gave a 5% raise to staff in January. Most churches don't give just automatic raises every year. So we go about 18 to 24 months. And that was the first one in 18 months for most of the staff. So that's huge for us. None of the staff count on a raise every year. Again, that's just their mindset. So when we can do it, I'm going to try to do it, and the Board of Elders said yes. So another thing that just happened about 6 or 8 months ago. Most of you know Sally Crank. She's been in our kids ministry for almost 29 years. She is leaving staff. She's moving back east with one of her sons. So when that happens, we usually sit down and talk about, okay, what do we do? What's the next step? And so that opened the doors for so many changes coming up here on our staff. We're going to miss Sally. She in here? Back there? Okay. Sally's in the back, like she loves to be in the back. So she's leaving July 30th and then moving back to Virginia in the middle of August. So, of course, we're going to miss her greatly. So what that did is opened up some of our minds and some opportunities. And so we thought about a family pastor role, a role that would concentrate on the kids and youth, but more on their families, the whole family unit, engaging the parents at a deeper level. And Sarah Pearman, who was our worship leader, some of you guys know this, we brought this idea up. She asked about it, and we said, what if? And she said yes, and so we're moving forward with that. I'm super excited about that. It's something that Sarah has in her background through college. So it's a huge change for us, obviously, not seeing Sarah up on stage every Sunday. And she's been on stage every Sunday since she was 15. Or even sooner, I don't even know that. But it's a big new role for us, and it's exciting because I think it's going to make a big difference in the family lives, family units here. A bunch of younger families are coming in the doors, help bring the parents involved in their kids' spiritual growth. So excited about that. Jordan Fitz was hired as a worship pastor or worship leader. She's not here today. She already had a trip planned before she got hired, so she's not here. She's on a part-time role. She's been on the worship team a couple years. She's been part of SCF for 10 plus years now. I'm not even sure, but again, you've seen her on stage already for the last month, so she's our new worship leader. All that being said, about every other role is changing a little bit or a lot. Don's role is going to be changing quite a bit towards the end of the year. He's going to be moving away from youth and into a connections engagement pastor role. So helping us engage people at whatever that next, I hate to use the next step word, but the next step is, and the newer people coming in. Dwayne's taken on a little bit more with our welcome team on Sunday mornings. Anna's role has morphed again. She's our true Gumby on staff. She gets stretched. So her role's changing. And Mike, I forgot to put Mike up here. His role's changing also. So everybody's role but mine or Jason are changing. So it's working out pretty good there. So again, I just want to say what makes SCF healthy is our staff. And it's not just me or Jason that maybe you guys see us more or not, but it's really our staff. So I get a privilege of working here, and there's a lot of stuff, moving parts right now, and we don't have it all 100% detailed down. We're probably about 80%. I'm looking at Don because he's just going like yeah. his role is probably changing the most. So, but by the end of the year, we'll have it all flushed out really well. We're taking transitions before Sally leaves. Of course, Sarah's going to work with Sally a lot. She's working with Jordan ongoing. Then Don and Sarah will be working together through the fall time. So our goal is to have Don work into that engagement role in the fall time. So anyway, so that's it about staff. Next slide. The mall. Hopefully all you know, we own this mall, this whole building all the way down. We own the Shelley's hardware store building over there in the parking lot. So if you didn't know that, we are the landlord for this whole mall. For a long time, yeah. We have 14 tenants. We had 15. Here's a little story. We had 15 tenants with 8 nonprofits. Now we have 14 tenants with 7 nonprofits. One of our nonprofits left recently, and another nonprofit took their space on the same week. So, so half our tenants are nonprofit, and I think that was yeah. That was a decision made by our board, I think in 2015 or somewhere in that range, about staying here and how do we bring in organizations or businesses that help the community. So we've done, God's opened that door up. I mean, we have an opening, we put it out, Anna's got a lot of connections, we throw it out an email, and usually we get somebody interested in it. So it's worked out very, very well. No open spaces. Everybody's paid on time, so we don't have any of those issues, which is great. A little bit about the mall. Our income's about $33,000 a month. Our true expenses are about $8,000, but our mall is paying our mortgage, which is $17,000. So you add the 17 to the 8's 25. So we're not putting a ton of money in our savings account on the mall side. We have about $150,000 in cash over there right now. So we are building it. It's slow build. So. And the mall paying our mortgage is a strategic move we did about 2 years ago to help our church budget. So right now, our church budget has no mortgage in it. Years past, we would split the mortgage or be all on SCF's operating budget. So we're at a great place where they can pay the mortgage and still put some money in the bank. So that really helps us. And the mall pays for part of mine and Alan Jackson, my facilities manager's salary. Every month, because we both do a lot for the mall. Instead of hiring a full property management team where we just make the call and they do everything else, Alan specifically handles a lot of stuff that goes on here. So we get some money from the mall. We have separate bank accounts, separate banks, and so they pay for part of our salary, which again helps SCF's budget. Finances. I know this is the one everybody loves. Okay. Through May, 11 months, so our fiscal year is July through June, so we just finished 11 months of this fiscal year. Our giving's about $24,000 above budget. Spending's about $6,000 under. We did have some larger expenses, so that $6,000 under should have been probably about $30,000. We had some HVAC and tech stuff that wasn't expected, and we, when a tech something goes wrong, you got to get it new. If an HVAC unit goes out, we got to buy something or fix it or something. So we're doing well on the finances side. So all those that live generously, that just doesn't mean about giving money. It's about giving time and your effort and stuff. So I want to thank you for making part of that my job a little bit easier. I don't have to stress about it every week or every month and make decisions like we had to 4 years ago and lay off people. So by you all and a lot of others out there giving on a regular basis, and I'll talk about that in a moment, it really allows our staff to really dream of what we really want to do here. We can't do everything at times, but we can do a lot. So back in November of last year, we had somebody come up to me and say, hey, I want to give a big gift. Do you have any projects? Well, every church has projects. I mean, that's, if somebody asks you about your house, you have a project at your house, the answer is yes. So I said, sure. He goes, well, I don't know what I'm going to give yet, but so this couple gives $30,000. So we spent that on, same time we were talking about redoing all the kids' rooms. And so Sally started on that project of we moved our kids ministry over from back that way over into this area where the youth were. So we spent all that 30,000 on the room improvements, and we bought some new chairs over here. If any of you guys use these rooms in 128 and 130, thank this person. So again, when we have those opportunities, we always have a to-do list. We always have a wish list of what we want to do. I think the next slide, Mike. Okay. Over this last year, looking back again, we've asked you, Jason has come up and asked you about some special giving. The benevolence back in October when they were cutting SNAP stuff. So we asked, you guys gave. Phenomenal, just incredible amounts. Youth camp recently, we got more money than we need, well, or we can use right now, right, Don? Yeah, okay. So we do ask, I know in the history of SCF, these one-time asks are pretty easy for us to do because it always happens. It rarely fails that we don't raise what we're asking for. So again, thank you for being generous in those moments where then we can go out and help a lot of people on the benevolence fund our food pantry greatly, help more people that come to us asking for help. And of course, youth camps are expensive, and so any way we could help them, more kids get to camp, that's the goal. So again, thank you for that. We've seen a shift, yeah, right there, thanks, Mike. We've seen a shift in our giving. People are giving more regularly, and for us, a regular giver is once a month. Now, a lot of you people maybe give weekly, or so for us, a regular giver is once a month, and there's no judgment there. You give once a month, once every 3 months. But 24 and 25, 49% people were gave once a month. This past year, 55%. To me, that's an engagement level. That's just a growth, I think, maturity. Any of us in here who have started giving and continue to give regularly, that's faith, because it's not easy at times. So we are moving that needle in the right way, and so which I enjoy because to me that's just one of these living generously, but also just this spiritual growth that happens in a person's life. So once they start doing something regularly, serving, giving, it becomes a habit. It becomes easy almost. So looking forward, our new budget, which the board just got this week, we're going to talk about on Tuesday night, is 1.317 million, about a 2.5% increase only versus last year. Hopefully it gets approved on Tuesday night or not, or we'll be making changes. So, and I one more slide there, Mike. Okay. Speaking of the new budget, some of this stuff I just mentioned, some of these new roles, these new departments, the family pastor, I put some money in the budget for the what ifs because we don't know what all those roles are going to want to do. Because I would rather have some funding in there for if Sarah or whoever on staff comes up with, hey, what about let's try this? So I put some money in there for that reason. And most of the staff is usually pretty good about coming up with stuff, so we'll probably be spending that money, which is great. And the last thing is we're going to be installing 2 new planters out by the front doors. In between the 2 round ones, we're going to add a couple, mainly for safety purposes. Over the years, we've wanted to, and I think it kind of galvanized last year. Jason was out front, and somebody almost ran somebody down, so we started putting the barricade things up. And so, the first 2 weeks in August, we're going to have some work done, which is great because August 8th or August 9th, we're not here at church. We're at Sparks Middle School for service, so they're going to work in those 2 weeks. Install a couple of planters. We'll have irrigation to them to plant some flowers or something. So that's the main thing we're going to do out there to increase safety so cars can't drive into your doors. I mean, I know it sounds, why do we have to worry about that? But it's real life. It's real life. So, and I think that's all I have. We're going to wait for questions at the end. Okay. Oh, you want me to bring up, or you want to do it?
Which one?
Sarah?
I'll bring it.
Okay.
Thanks, John. So one of the questions that did come in was about a potential capital campaign eventually for some roof issues that we've had ongoing. We have had some preliminary talks on the board about possibly doing a capital campaign, but that has not been decided on or anything like that, so it's in very early stages, so there's no real specific information there. I can tell you a roof, John, what's? So $750,000 for a new roof for the whole mall. So that's not something we have in our reserve funding right now. So if we ever, when we decide we have to move forward with something like that, it would be a capital campaign over probably 12 months or something like that. But that there's nothing specific in that regard right now. I think as part of that, if we decide to do that, it'll be a little bit more than just the roof. I think there's some aesthetic things we'd like to do to the building just to make it a little more presentable and maybe look a little more current. Is that the nice way to say that? Right? So as that kind of develops, as it does, we'll make sure that we keep you abreast of that. That won't be something that we just pop up out of nowhere or anything like that. So just so you're aware of that as well. All right. The next person who's going to come and talk is Sarah Pierman, who has been our Connections pastor and is now our Family Life pastor. So she's going to talk about Connections a little bit and maybe a little bit about Family Life as well. So.
Maybe I should stand up then. All right, so as many of you know, I've had the privilege of serving as both the worship leader and Connections pastor. As I transition into the role of Family Life pastor, I wanted to take a few minutes to reflect on where we've been this past year and also share some excitement about where we're headed. So looking back, first, I want to say thank you to all the volunteers who make ministry happen every single week. In our Connections ministry, we've seen encouraging growth in our volunteer teams. We've added new volunteers to both our coffee team and our front door greeting team, and they help create a welcoming environment for everyone who walks through the doors. Another area that continues to thrive is our church app. The app has truly become our primary hub for communication and engagement throughout the week. It's encouraging to see people not just downloading it, but actively using it. And based on our analytics, people are opening the app on average 3 to 4 times each week. That's incredible. Whether that's checking announcements, signing up for events, accessing teaching, staying connected with church life, the app has become an important tool for helping our church stay informed and engaged. A big part of that success is due to the entire communication team, and Anna has taken on leadership role of our church communication for the past month now. She's done an incredible job managing the app and creating the message content that you guys see on a regular basis. Her consistency, creativity, and attention to detail will help keep our church family informed and connected throughout the week. One area where we continue to have a need is on our usher team. We've had several members of that team experience health challenges this year, which has understandably made serving more difficult. We are grateful for their faithfulness and would love to see some new faces step in to help support that ministry. On the worship side, as John mentioned, we hired Jordan Fitz last month as our part-time worship leader. And over the past month, I've had the privilege of walking alongside Jordan, training, mentoring, and helping her become as comfortable and confident as possible in her new role. She will officially be taking over leadership of our Sunday morning services, and I know you guys will all make her feel welcome and supported. Beginning July 1st, Dwayne will be taking over leadership for all of our welcome teams, and this transition will allow me to focus more fully on Family Life ministry. Looking ahead, over the last month, I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in our kids' ministry on Sunday mornings. I've been able to visit every classroom, observe how things are running, and get to know many of our incredible volunteers. I've also been taking a deep dive into the curriculum we currently use for our preschool and elementary students. At the same time, we're preparing to adopt a new curriculum for our middle school and our high school students. In addition to curriculum planning There have been some significant improvements made to our ministry spaces. The kids ministry has had several room updates and improvements that have made our classrooms more welcoming, functional, and engaging for the children. We're also very close to completing the new youth area, which they got to see today. This will provide an exciting space for them to gather and build relationships and grow in their faith together. So while I'm still getting my feet wet in the ministry, I can already tell you how excited I am about the year ahead. I also want to recognize Sally and Dawn. This dedication, commitment, and countless hours that they have invested have built strong foundations in both our children's and our youth ministries. Because of their work, we're not starting from scratch. We're building on something healthy and meaningful. They have faithfully prepared the ground for continued growth and ministry for the next generation. As I look forward, one of my greatest hopes is to work closely with Dawn and Dwayne as we explore ways to help families connect more deeply here at SCF. We have so many wonderful ministries and events and opportunities already happening, and my goal is to help us become even more intentional in creating pathways for families to build relationships, grow in faith, and feel connected to the life of our church. This transition is bittersweet because I have truly loved serving in Connections and leading worship. At the same time, I'm genuinely excited about investing in the next generation and helping families grow together in their faith. Thank you for your prayers, your continued prayer, your encouragement, and your willingness to serve. I'm grateful for what God has done, excited about what he's doing right now, and looking forward to what he has in store for our church this coming year. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And next, we have our community life pastor, who is Mr. Dwayne Yancey.
I thought he was going to punk me as usual. That's what I'm used to. This fork is for John Nightingale. He tried to put it in my pocket. Just thought I'd bring it up here. Everybody had papers. I don't have a paper. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit. Hey, one thing I want to talk about, and Jason wore it out already, didn't he? Community. Okay, it's in my job description. Now I got to talk about it. I want to take a second to talk about people that have attended here for a long time, and for you, a long time is whatever you gauge it to be. But I think in that period of time, there have been times where you may have been offended here. You may have had somebody you didn't get along with. You may have had a situation come up with somebody around here that you chose not to make the most important thing, and I want to honor that. I think you chose to work through it, or you chose to put the community ahead of your own personal feelings, and I think that's how we grow together. Because I think if we look at that kind of stuff, there's always a chance to be offended, and I do that to people all the time. Sorry to say, but that's probably the way it goes. I'm sorry. If I did, I'm sorry. I'll apologize. But I do want to honor those folks, and there's a lot of them here that I see sitting here, and they're the same people that wouldn't want any recognition at all. Like if I called them out, they'd be like, "Shut up, man. I don't need that." But I do want to honor it. I do want to take the chance to say something, because I think a lot of those people are the same people that maybe are serving as elders now, and having been an elder, I can tell you that it's a tough job. Like you spend a lot of time praying for the place and the staff, and you end up hearing all the stuff, all the tougher things that are going on, and we've had some of our people pass recently, and it's hard because that's our family. Yeah, and if you're serving now as an elder, I want to tell you thank you for doing that. And some of you came back, like you had a chance to get out, and then you came back. So I don't know, that might be on you a little bit. Another bunch of folks that I want to recognize are the community group leaders. So these people have chosen to many times open their home, have people into their house. And as Jason talked about this morning, you don't know if you're going to get along with them, not get along with them. Let's just hang out and see what happens. So we had a conversation. Was Janice here? Janice Grant? So Janice helps me a bunch. Janice and Hannah and I have done a lot of the community life stuff. But if there's something that comes up, we usually end up talking. And I sent a text message the other day, and we made a T-shirt out of it. It's not an actual T-shirt, but it could be. What I told this community group leader was, thank you for leading, encouraging, interpreting, feeding, coddling, sorting, noticing, listening, challenging, supporting, praying, forgiving, including, inviting, discerning, refereeing, and so many more. Thank you for leading. And I think that's part of it, and that's just a small part of it, but there's so much there, isn't there? Those people have taken it upon themselves to see the need. Hey, these people, they know the value of community, and they're looking to include others in that. And I think one place that we can keep looking is for those younger folks, man. We're coming up on graduation again, and I always think, this is the time of year I think, what are those kids going to do when they have the choice to go to church or not? Maybe they've gone all the way up until now because their mom and dad said, you're going to church. You know what I mean? So now they have a driver's license. Now they're maybe going to college, or they're coming here for college. What have we got for them so they feel like they're welcome here? And they don't feel like it's a different church, like it's the older people, and then what do we do? So I think if we can always look towards that group, I think that'll bode well for us. So the community group leaders, we have people that will engage with them. They're community pastors. There's a group of folks that will walk with those leaders in case the leader, something happens in their group and they say, hey, look, this is going on and I need somebody to talk to about it. I think that's a really valuable thing, because then you don't feel like you're the only one that can handle this, whatever it is that's going on, because there's sometimes when it's a lot. And you guys should know that. So you guys that are serving as community pastors, I want to appreciate you now as well for teaming up with the group leaders. And I know at times there are times when we think, I don't know if I have time for that, or I don't know if I have the bandwidth for that. I've got a lot going on. I think we all have a lot going on. I just appreciate anybody that's choosing to make that important, because I think that's important for all of us. And as Jason talks about being rooted, I think the cool thing about the newer terminology that's coming is it's more community-based. I think what we see seems like it's more individual, but I think we can grow together better. So I'm encouraged about that. And yeah, that's it. That's all I had. How about that?
It's okay till the sudden stop. You up there, Fort? It's John.
I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to try not to say that. One of the things you will notice in the fall is it's one of the things that we've offered for a long time in the fall is a class called Rooted, or a 11-week course called Rooted. One of the decisions we've made is to really pursue that at a much deeper and more substantive level as a church, and to really use that as a connection point moving forward. And so if you've not taken Rooted, let me encourage you to think about it this fall, because our hope is not only to get people through an 11-week kind of thing, which is very formative and very meaningful, I think, but our hope is also to build communities out of that group, right? That if you take 11 weeks and you meet with each other and you build a relationship and you're not in a community, what better way than that to maybe form some community? And so that's going to be something that both Dawn and Dwayne are working on pretty diligently. Next is going to be Anna Kripp, who has been our outreach coordinator for a long time. One of the things that I love about SEF, I like to use these two words about churches: gather and go. Most churches are either gathering churches. They spend all their money on Sunday morning, and that's the big thing, and get everybody to the gathering. And can we all agree the gathering matters? I love the gathering. But there's a second part of that, the going. Then you get the other churches that are all going, right? Like it's just, they do everything in the community, but you go to the gathering and you're like, ah. So I think healthy churches are great in gathering. They're also tremendous in going. That when we walk out of the gathering, we're going with purpose and intent. And one of the things I love about SCF is that this community is better because we're here. We don't just take up space, but we meaningfully engage and share God's goodness in so many ways in our community. And a big part of that is Anna's work and her connection to this community and people in it in ways that are far beyond what I could ever do. She's uniquely gifted at it. And so she has been a pleasure to have lead that. And I know she's moving in a little different direction, but she will never get fully out of this place because she loves it and she's so good at it. So Anna's going to come up and share a little bit about outreach this year.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, I don't mind moving into communication, but I did say to John, please don't take me out of outreach. I love outreach. So that's the truth. I love doing outreach in a church who loves doing outreach. There's been so many wins this year, so many. And lots of them are in part from great vision from leadership, but most of those wins are from people who attend here. I love that we just come up with a need or we hear of something, and our people are great at serving. They're great at meeting those needs. They jump in wherever those needs are, and that's a win in my opinion. I want to start with school engagement. We added Hug High, the new Hug High this past couple years, and so that gives us 12 schools in our zip code. We deliver a treat to those schools every month, and yep, it's really fun. We get to be the person who brings something fun to them, and that's really helped us to get our name out, to build the relationships, and to get to know the front office staff. In addition to that treat, we have several community groups that are connected to schools, and those community groups do great work too. They bring treats also. They volunteer at harvest parties. They read with the kids in classrooms. They do staff breakfast and lunch at Appreciation Week. Really, whatever that school asks for, they call that group, and they get connected and help and whatever they need. And so if you are a part of a group that's not connected to a school, I want to encourage you, just see me. We can get you connected. Even if you feel like your group is too small to take on a whole school, sometimes two groups do it together, and it just works perfect. For the last 10 years, we have done Serve Sunday, and last year we decided to shake it up a bit. Instead of Serve Sunday, we decided that Sunday would be a celebration Sunday, and we would serve the whole entire week. It worked phenomenally. You guys signed up day and night shifts. You were out there pulling weeds, even when it's not fun to pull weeds. We added some non-weedy kind of projects too, for those of you who didn't want to pull weeds. And so that's what it will look like again this year. We'll do a whole week, morning and night. Some schools will get 2 shifts because they have lots of things that they need done. So mark your schedule now. That week will take place August 3rd through 8th, and then barbecue in the park, like John said, will be on the 9th. It will be near the Sparks Middle School where that grassy part is, and it's just a fun day. In my 5 minutes, I really wouldn't be able to tell you all the outreach that takes place here in the building or outside the building, the things that you guys do. But one ministry I want to highlight is the food pantry ministry. To run a food pantry, it takes a crew on Monday. That crew on Monday stocks the shelves, picks up their order from the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. A Tuesday crew does grocery rescue, so they pick up groceries at the Spanish Springs Save Mart. They pick up at Food Max. There's 2 Paneras that give us groceries. They call it grocery rescue because it's things that they cannot no longer sell, but they benefit our pantry tremendously. Let's see. It takes a crew on Wednesday morning to greet the people, to check them in, to pick their order, to take it to their cars. we have heard multiple people that don't attend church here that have started attending church here because they feel welcomed. And so that's a win too. We serve about 175 families a week. It just keeps going up and up. Things are more expensive in the world, and so people need our pantry. And it takes about 30 volunteers to run that pantry each week. And so, yeah, it would not be possible without that great volunteer team. So I just want to thank them. I know some of them are here tonight. And it wouldn't be possible without your generosity too. Benevolence Sunday, like John said, happens once a month. Part of that benevolence money goes to support the pantry. So thank you all for giving on that Sunday also. We have 19 local and global partners who we support financially each month. So those partners, how we kind of vet those partners is that we really want them to be engaged and have things that where we can connect with them. So that's how we pick those partners that we financially support. We also have our mall partners. They lots of times need something, and we send volunteers to them too. So not only do we have faith-based partners, we have some secular partners that we support, not financially right now, but in other ways. One way that we support our global partners is mission trips, and so there's 2 coming up that I want to tell you about. In October, we'll do Mexico again. This year, we're going to kind of shake it up a little bit, and Ensenada was full, and so we're going to try the Tijuana YWAM base, and so that's a little bit different. Nevada Day weekend, and then for Costa Rica, the beginning of March in 2027, we'll do Costa Rica. That's a house build also. Kenneth and Elaine Orozco are our global partners who are in Costa Rica, and it's really fun to go on that mission trip. We've built in the same village for 5 years now, so we've gotten to know the people who receive the homes, the people who come out every year and help build, and of course we love the Orozcos. So both of those trips need a passport. Start planning now if you don't have one. If you've been on a trip before, then maybe it's time to tap somebody on a shoulder and bring a friend. And so there'll be an info meeting for those 2 mission trips coming up at the end of August. So in closing, I just want to say thank you for making my job easy by being willing. You guys are always willing. I love that anytime I give you an opportunity, I just watch how God brings the people. Sometimes I get nervous and I think, oh no, are we going to be able to do this? We always do. He's amazing. God brings the people and the task gets done. I can't wait to see what the rest of 26 holds and how the church gets to be part of it. So thanks.
Thanks, Anna. One of the things I love about outreach here is, Anna mentioned we have 12 schools in our zip code. And anytime I go and talk to other pastors or I talk to people in the community and the church, I hear a lot this idea, well, you know, we're starting a school because the schools are bad. We need Christian schools. And I'm not against Christian schools, hear me rightly. But my experience in working with schools is that if you are just willing to say, what can we help you with, they tend to open their doors pretty quickly, right? I don't know if you guys know this happened. This happens every year, but Dilworth, which is the middle school on Prater, right there, right? Every year they have a school fair where they bring in organizations and they're like, hey, come advertise your organization, whatever it is. And every year they ask us, would you guys like to set up and invite people to your church? We didn't ask for that. So anytime you hear somebody say, well, you know, the schools, they're just against Jesus, they're not. They're just against people who stand outside the schools and criticize them in the name of Jesus. It's amazing if you just show up and be friendly to people. Most of them are pretty friendly, right? And Anna has built incredible relationships, as have our groups. I love that the first call for every school in the zip code when they need something is our number. They call us, and you guys are generous, and because you're generous, those relationships just continue to expand, and all of our partners are that way. And so I love that this church is, man, able to affect people all across our community just because of your generosity and your willingness. And so thank you for that, Anna. Thanks for your work on that. Last but not least is Don Mattioni, who is our Next Generations pastor. And so, Don, come on. There you go.
Is this passing the baton?
Absolutely.
Thanks, John. So, yeah, there's a lot going on tonight. I would say this. First of all, thank you to Sarah for what your kind words were towards Sally and I. And I would say just to Sally, I know you've been through a lot. It's been a true joy and honor working with you the last 4.5 years. And thank you for being patient with me and just allowing. She would be very more blunt towards things, and she allowed me to probably be a pushover on some things towards people. And I just thank you for being patient with me in that, Sally. And I know you're going to enjoy your time with your son. So, yeah, Sarah moving into the family pastor role. I'm going to talk a little bit about the past to give a little bit of clarity of what's coming for the future for Sarah. Sarah had said that, because not just of what Sally and I have been able to accomplish, what God's been able to accomplish through us, and the volunteer teams that make up the children's ministry and the youth ministry. So specifically to talk about the youth ministry, I would say that to all the youth leaders and elite youth volunteers, I thank you. You guys were all an answered prayer for me as I stepped into that role. And a little bit what's been going on with them. Many of you may not know, on a Sunday morning, there's a whole youth service that happens. They come in for worship. They sit in that back corner over there. And then once worship is over, they leave and they go to the youth room. There is a teaching team of teachers in the youth ministry. Something we started a couple years ago that we try to get together once a month. As of late, it's been a little bit hard because of scheduling, but I give them a passes to teach on, and then we all critique each other. And out of that, they grow, they learn, I grow, and I learn from them. And what that's been able to do is there's a schedule that they sign up and they teach in a rotation every Sunday. So the youth are not just hearing me, they're hearing a multitude of voices, which I think speaks to directly what we're learning in Acts right now. It wasn't just one voice, right? It was many voices that makes the church grow. That's what happens on Sunday mornings. On Sunday evenings, for the past 4.5 years, we've done something called community group nights on Sunday nights. When I started this role, I wanted to start a community meal. And really what that looked like when it first started was just me trying to find, there's a lot of Little Caesars pizzas, but it gets eaten, so I kept doing it. It morphed into me cooking meals, spaghetti, tacos, burgers, hamburgers, stuff like that. And then I think it was Dwayne, when Dwayne came along, he's like, hey, can we help you out, man? And so the beautiful thing now is I know coming up in the fall when community group Sunday night for youth comes back, there's going to be a schedule. And I just heard this morning, you talk about a win. I had a group that committed to say we want to at least do it once a month for the youth group. So if that's something you're interested in providing a meal for the youth group on Sunday nights, prepare large. About 40 to 45 kids that eat a lot. So it's a little bit about the past. Also on that Sunday night, there's a different, some of the same, but a couple different youth leaders. In the past year or so or more, I've really pushed to engage them more into leading on Sunday nights. I knew something was coming, but I didn't know what. And I just kept telling them, I need you guys to put yourselves in these positions. I recognize teaching gifts in some of you. I recognize how you can give towards this ministry more than just sitting in there and trying to ask youth students questions and not getting answers back. So they have been leading more on Sunday nights, and they're doing phenomenally. And it's just really cool to watch on Sunday mornings that the focus is not on me. I think God knew what he was doing. That what was coming and being able to build those teams. And so I just, again, want to thank, I know I see a lot of them here tonight, Eli, Grace, Sandra. If I don't see you right now, it's because it's really bright right here. Thank you guys for what you pour into the youth. And I know there's a couple youth students in this room, and I know you heard something tonight. Dang, I didn't expect this. I love them all. I I thank John and Jason for allowing me to take this role 4.5 years ago. And I knew nothing of how a church runs. I didn't grow up in church. I've been a part of SCS since 2010, so 16 years. So I've been a part of many small groups, and I served in the youth group with Nick when he was the youth pastor. I couldn't tell you the first thing about curriculum. It's not my forte. But John and Jason really just kind of looked at me and said, everything's on the table. Do what you feel led to do. And I was able to do that by the grace of God and his help. And I would say, you know, I'm not a big numbers guy, but I know the first camp I brought 12 students to, and we're looking at 60 kids this year. So one of the things I've noticed about the youth community in the last year or so or more, probably about 2 years, is the idea of a community. I don't know if you know this, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Like we talk about community, getting a bunch of youth kids in a room and asking them to get along. I always joked that I just had a bunch of little atheists in the room and I was trying to convince them of God, which is partly true. But also, they're just kids throwing whatever at the wall to see what sticks, trying to figure out life, boundaries they can push. And so if you're a youth student in this room and I've pushed you hard, it's for a reason. I do care for you. I do love you. But I know your potential because people have recognized it in me. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm super excited. It's emotional for me. I know it's going to get more emotional towards the next 6 months coming out of camp. I don't know if this is my last camp or not, but it's been a privilege and an honor. And thank you guys to the SF community for entrusting to me your grandchildren. Some of you are just caretakers for caring for those kids, to your sons and your daughters. It's truly an honor. I see Sean right there. I love you, man. You're a good kid. Keep working hard. And I just, yeah, I'm excited for what's to come and moving. I knew I wasn't going to be a youth pastor. I think Nick did it 9 years, and I said, there's no way I'm doing it that long, dude. So, yeah, I always poke fun at him, so he expects that. So yeah, I'm excited for what's coming, and I think there's been some questions about my role in the youth ministry. And I would tell with 100% certainty, the youth will be fine because of the people that are in charge of it and running it and how they lead. It doesn't need to be one guy. In fact, it's harder when it's looked at it like it's one guy. How do I care for 60 kids on my own? Right? So I would ask for openness in your mind as Sarah moves forward with this in family role ministry and getting involved in your kid's life. Because I will say one thing. On Sunday nights, there's a vast majority of kids that just come to church. A win would be is I have 4 middle school boys were coming here. They come from this neighborhood and they come to this church, and they were passing on the way over here and they witnessed the domestic abuse going on with the little girl. And the first thing they said to him was, "Hey, do you want to come to this church with us? It's a safe place." That's a win for me. And I will say this, that it's them. So there's parents I've never met. And that's hard because being a dad myself, I sit there and look at, and I tell myself daily, you have to be involved, Don. I know it's selfish to want to do what I want to do, but I look at my kids every day and I think to myself, I have to give up everything for them. So if Sarah asks you to get involved, do it because it's needed. I have a kid in my youth group who I've seen a massive change in him because of his dad's changing his own life. And it's amazing to watch that kid grow when a parent is there and for them. And they're making strides themselves. And it's amazing to watch. And he's always been a good kid. He just needed that parent there to help him. So thank you for your time. Thank you for entrusting me the youth the last 4.5 years. And I look forward to the future.
So one of the things I'm sure you picked up as Sarah transitioned into family life pastor role, the teams leading both children's and youth are going to be much more collaborative. So there's not going to be necessarily a singular leader underneath Sarah in those areas. They're going to be teams that actually approach that. And some of you that grew up in church, You're hearing that and you go, but we have to have a youth pastor. We need to know who it is. Let me say this to you. I spent 10 years as a youth pastor. I had a youth group of 300 kids. We grew up from 60 kids to 300 kids. Everybody in the state of Florida looked at our youth group and said, that's the best one there. I could go back, and that's 20 years ago now, 25 years ago. Probably less than 5% of those kids follow Jesus today. Because the model that we're comfortable with just doesn't work. So are we committed to models or are we committed to our kids? I have no use for models that don't work just because people are attached to them. Right? And our goal is not to get a whole lot of kids to show up. Yeah, we want as many that will show up to show up. But our job is to make sure that everyone who shows up, man, somebody cares and is connected to that kid. Because I don't know if you know this, my wife's a teacher. She teaches 6th grade. This generation is disconnected, man. They are disconnected. A lot of parents and guardians have farmed them out to digital devices. They'd rather them stare at their iPad so they don't have to talk to them and deal with their problems. We have to be a place where that's not what we do. We don't just entertain them. We don't just give them free pizza. We actually help them to understand who Jesus is, and they're loved by him. So we are taking a different approach. I don't apologize. If you have more questions, you'd like to talk deeper, come see me. I'd be glad to. But as someone who did the other model probably better than anybody I know, I can tell you it doesn't work. The other way we know that, the percentage of Christians in our culture has declined progressively for the last 50 years. It actually upticked the last 2. That's not because of churches, I know. That's largely because of young men who are looking on YouTube and finding that the secular society we find ourselves in has failed us. So, we're not attached to methods and models. We're attached to what Jesus is doing. And whatever model that takes, we're going to do that. Does that make sense? And so, man, I'm excited about the direction we're going. Sarah's going to do a phenomenal job. Volunteers under her are going to do a phenomenal job. I'm excited about Dawn moving into Connections because we're going to make a huge push this year to get new families and new people connected in deep ways, and he's going to be a big part of that. But everybody who talked to you tonight, do you know what their main job is, according to the scriptures? To equip you for the work of the ministry that God has prepared you for. So the job of a church staff is not to do the ministry. It's to equip you to do it. So, we're doing well the more ministry you do. Because it means we're equipping you to do what God has called you to do. So, I tell them all the time, your job is not to come up with new events and to do new things. Your job is to spend time equipping people to figure out why God made them and what God has for them to do. And so I think our staff's done an incredible job because I've seen growth in so many of you. That's evidence of what God is using them to do. So thank you guys. To our staff, thank you very much. Man, it's a privilege to work with you guys. There was one question that came in, and then I'm going to open it up if we have any other questions. I think Doug sends me the same question every year, which I appreciate because it makes me think about the same things. I actually appreciate it. But his question was, help me, Doug. Yes. And there was a second part. Yeah, what was the biggest challenge and what are we looking forward to the most? I'll tell you what I believe in my role for churches is always the hardest thing. It's staying simple. Staying simple. It's McDonald's trying to have tacos. Like it's looking around and going, well, what do people want? We should do that. No, you shouldn't. We shouldn't do what people want. We shouldn't do what I want. We should do what helps grow people in terms of following Jesus. And one of the reasons that I'm not up here talking about a whole lot of new initiatives is because I think we're moving in the right direction. So we're not going to change direction. We're just going to lean in harder. Because we don't need to do everything, but we need to do the things narrowly and specifically as well as we can that help people to come to know and to grow in following Jesus together. And so I think the hardest thing is to stay narrow. Because the reality is, at least once, I stand out in that lobby every Sunday. And I do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I just like to know faces and some names, right? I know more faces than names because this gray matter is not what it used to be, right? But I also like to just get a sense of where people are. And if you stand out there, people tend to tell you things. Some you want to hear, some you do not want to hear. And it's a bit of both every Sunday, right? We were joking on staff the other day that they should just put a mic on me one Sunday out there. And I could play it for you guys, just all the conversations that go on, right? But you probably don't want to hear most of that. But one of the things you find out, and this is true of me, it's why I talk about it a lot, I think, because I recognize it in me and in others. I'm convinced that we grew up in a culture that told us what we want mattered. Almost primarily. It's Burger King, right? Have it your way. Most of us have been convinced through marketing most of our life that what we want and our preference is the most important thing. I'm convinced one of the things we have to do in church is break that. Because I think it's demonic. It's the worship of the self, right? Just rebranded. And so I think we have to fight preference for purpose. That preference is not purpose. And so I think staying narrow is about that. Because we all have preferences, don't we? I don't like that song, I like that song. I don't like when he speaks, I like when he speaks. If you come in and you ask me who's speaking today, I know what you're doing. I'm not dumb. And I see some of you walk in and see somebody speaking and then leave. I've seen that too. So just know I'm praying. Right? So I think that is the biggest struggle always. But I think what I look forward to, what's encouraging to me, is I see the last couple of years this kind of emerging hunger in people for something more. Not just superficial Christianity, not just like checking boxes, but like real hunger and wanting to grow and to dig deep and root deeply. And that is really, really encouraging to me. So it's our job to equip people then. For people who are hungering for that, we should figure out a way to equip that. And I think that's what we're working hard to do. So, absolutely. Thanks for that question, Doug. It's a good question. It makes me think. So, any other questions? I don't want to keep you guys all night. Dawn's going to be my microphone carrier. There you go.
Hi, Tammy.
It's shocking that Tammy had a question.
I already asked Don one of my questions. You did.
Good.
You did, and he expanded on it.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Quickies.
Yep.
5% raise. Did that include you, I hope?
It did this time, yeah.
Okay, because he said staff and I was concerned. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Introduction of elders. So
Yep.
I'm in a small group.
Sure.
We have an elder in our group.
Yep.
My spouse was an elder a
Yep.
few years ago. There are a lot of people in here who don't even know what our elders look like. Or
Agree.
what their names are.
Absolutely. Agree.
We need to introduce them, and we need to have them a little more visible, I think.
I agree with you. So I think there are opportunities as we bring elders on. I think it's a good opportunity to introduce them. I think we've done that a little bit in the past. But you're right. I think there are some ways that we can make them more visible. they are on the website.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like, I think most of our elders, for the right reason, serve deeply but don't want to be seen.
And I don't
And-
disagree with that.
and-
I
and
just
so
think
I
that as a
don't-
body, we should know who they are.
I don't think it's that we're trying to hide them.
No.
I think we just haven't been really good at figuring out how to create value for them being known. So that's probably something we need to work better at. Absolutely.
Still on a 5-year rotation?
We are.
Okay.
So we actually have, I believe, 5 coming off after this year.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it's
'cause
one
I
of the things,
had-
to be honest with
I
you.
knew we were close.
Yeah. So let
I
me
was
say
wondering.
this. It's one of the things that we as a board have talked a little bit about, figuring out how we kind of stagger so that we don't have mass exoduses. And we also have more continuity. So those conversations have been ongoing. And I think they'll get somewhere, honestly, because I think we all kind of see that a 5-person swing is a little tough. Absolutely it is. Absolutely, I fully agree.
So my last question is probably more for John, because,
Sure.
we can't not have a question for John.
Absolutely.
You would be offended, wouldn't you? So you mentioned the HVAC and some of the other information, but do we have any known expenses coming up for the mall or even our portion?
Here you go, John.
Not specific like capital improvements or anything. No, we don't. We kind of right now we're more reactionary, and we know HVAC. We've got some units that are older, so probably the next year we'll probably have to start thinking about how to replace 1 or 2 a year, but. So we're reactionary to keep them fixed and working, and I think it's worked well. It's not perfect. It's so other than the capital campaign, maybe making some physical changes to the mall. I mean, as far as paint or roof or something, yeah, and so maybe some more paving or something. So. You mean the cam charges? Yeah. We're doing good. Like I said, we got about 150,000 total in cash over there. Oh no, I don't know that number off the top of my head, Ken. But I look at that money, and I didn't say this. We have about 250,000 in cash on the church side. So to me, we have $400,000 available that we could use for whatever we want to, kind of thing. So I look at one big pot, even though it's separate. I have to keep them separate legally and all that stuff. But it's one big pot for our use. We have pulled money from the mall to help the church out in past years. We haven't had to do that other than paying the mortgage. So.
Oh, CAMs. Where are we on CAMs fees on the mall side? So that's common area maintenance fees, right? Which is a percentage of rent, or it's an addition to rent that we take from the tenants every month. I will say, Ken, since you are on the board, everybody is at least paying the same CAMs fees basically now. We're actually collecting them from everybody, which is a huge... Everybody's current on their rent, so there has been great progression, and a lot of that is the management company working with us. So, yes, ma'am.
I did submit a question, but I guess maybe it didn't go through. But my question was, is there a way that we can request any songs to be sung on Sunday? I mean, it'd be nice maybe to hear some of the old stuff. No?
I say that partly jokingly. I've done this long enough to not just open up to general requests from everybody. I will say you're more than welcome to talk to the worship leader and make a suggestion. She's under no compunction or compulsion to follow that. So again, I go back to that idea of preference. We're not feeding preference. I don't pick songs that I like. She doesn't necessarily pick songs because she likes them. We actually work songs. If you pay attention, I think, we choose songs that are in line with what we're talking about, the whole progression of the service that day. So I'm not trying to be obstinate here. I just think in your mind you're thinking, well, I have a song I really like. So does everybody else. So if we create a system where everybody has the opportunity to get to her to ask for a song, I'm putting work on her that I'm not willing to put. And so I'm going to protect our staff that way, just to be honest with you. So I do understand the question. If you corner her in the lobby at some point and you ask her, that's up to you. She can defend herself. She's not here, so that's fair. I just think it's a more complicated. It's a more complicated process from our side than just someone asking for a song. Honestly, so. Well, I think at some point it becomes a numbers game, and it's also about access to her. And because my understanding, I've worked in churches a long time. When you create a system where people can make requests, if you don't honor the request, you've created conflict now. That's just true. And I don't want to create a system where we have conflict unnecessarily. So I have to think of it from a little deeper than just the song, I guess. And I understand it. I'm the same way. I have songs I like too. But one of the reasons I don't do that is because I don't want to place undue burden on anybody. And I could lean into it, probably, more than most people in the room, right? So I don't want to do that, and I don't want to put that on anybody else. But I do appreciate the question. It's a good question. Anybody else? Awesome. Yeah. I try to say this every week. Man, I really appreciate you guys. I love what I get to do. I love this church. I love you as a people. I love that I get to be part of this people. God has been really good to us the last 3 or 4 years. If you were here during that COVID period and all of that, you know it was a rough couple of years in many ways. But God is redeeming all things. And he is making this church what he wants it to be, not what we want it to be, not what I want it to be, not what you want it to be, but what he wants it to be. And what a joy to be part of that process together. Amen? So thanks. I love meetings like this because we don't have a lot of huge announcements because we're just continuing to follow Jesus consistently. And so there's not a whole lot that changes in that. I did ask you to think about a few things. Figure out how to tell stories of where you see Jesus consistently. Work that into your conversations. Write a few of them down so we can know about them and we can celebrate them as a body. And if you have not found a place to connect, man, let us help you do that. Because we want you to be connected, not because it's going to be perfect. We talked about that this morning. But through it, God is perfecting you. It's not going to be perfect, but it's his means of perfecting you. And so that matters. Amen? All right. Wallace, come here. You're going to pray for us as we get out of here, my friend.
And I'm embarrassed. All right. Well, dear Lord, bless this heavenly church. Bless us as we go out of here tonight and try to process all this information in a positive way and help us through the remainder of this year and going into the next one. In your name, amen.
Great job, brother. Thank you. Hey, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Have a wonderful rest of the week. We'll see you again soon, man.